I'm not trying to depress everybody that watches The Political Insider, but these stories just keep on coming. Every time it's a new ministry with a new little bit of corruption that has crept out of the woodwork. And sometimes it's even the ministries where we think that the minister is fairly useful, doesn't necessarily belong in the sort of Tembi Simelane category of ministers that has got question marks next to them. And one of the ministers that's held in high regard has been the Minister of Finance, Enoch Godongwana. Even though the guy has got a very, very suspect history, you can go back and have a look where he was involved in shenanigans, once again, in Eastern Cape when he was an MEC there. But since he's been Minister of Finance, everybody says what a swell guy he is. Now we find that there's a problem in the Government Pensions Administration Agency, which falls under the Ministry of Finance. And this is a straightforward case of graft. There is no other way to put it. Now, who are the Government Pensions Administration Agency? Well, they're a body that manages 3 trillion rands worth of money that belongs to the pension funds and retirement funds of government employees and SOE employees. These are people that have paid from their salaries for their careers. It's their money, and it's managed by this organization, the GPAA. So these guys get a great idea that they're going to get a consulting company in to write a system to help them solve God knows what problem. It doesn't feel like there's a job at hand. It's not like a consulting company that's going to build a bridge. It seems like they're going to run some software so that the Ministry of Finance or the Government Pension Administration Agency can do better events or outreach programs, whatever it is. It sounds like just a reason to raise an invoice. And they go out to tender, and a company called GPAA Consulting gets a 21 million rand tender, gets awarded this tender to write a system. Now, once again, if you're watching this and you work in the private sector, 21 million rand buys you a lot of system. And we do know that there's a lot of systems available that are written already. You just buy a licensing fee that costs you a couple of $100. But hey, this is South Africa, this is the government. So along comes GPAA Consulting. They get this job to develop a whole system. And immediately this thing is flagged as particularly not looking too kosher. And the CFO, or rather the manager who was managing this, sees that there's problems with this particular tender and flags it, right? And what ends up happening is chaos. The CEO goes on leave. The acting chief financial officer, a chap by the name of Myron Kutsia, insists that one of his managers pays 21 million rand on this suspect tender, even though no work has been done. As it happens, the CEO happens to be on leave, and this Mr. Myron Kutsia also happens to be the acting CEO. So not only does he approve the tender, but he tries to put pressure on the particular manager that's holding back payment. The best of the lot is the invoice, which is in the public domain. The line item for which they must get paid 21 million rand says project initiation phase, kick-off planning and systems development. Now, for a big process like this, that's something that it doesn't sound terribly good. Anyway, the acting CEO signs the agreement. This is the acting chief director, Eric Marudu, comes into this. And he decides that he's going to sign this agreement and get it pushed to be paid. In fact, it goes so far that the CEO who comes back from leave says, pay this thing by tomorrow at 12 or else. The manager then withholds payment because this thing has been flagged for irregular expenditure. So in other words, this manager doesn't want to fall foul of the Public Financial Management Act, says they can't pay it. So the CEO, who's now back from leave, serves a suspension letter on the manager because the manager won't pay for a service they haven't received for a flagged tender that looks dodgy. Now, you must understand how bad a tender must be to get flagged in the first place, because we see it all the time. Really dodgy stuff is done. But all these levels of senior management within the GPAA were desperate to get this 21 million rand paid. Enoch Godongwana is the minister that oversees this body, gets alerted about this in June. And by August, his spokesperson admits that he's done nothing about it. Now, here's a guy who's meant to manage the public purse, Minister Enoch Godongwana. Looks a straightforward case of dodgy business here, where 21 million rand is going to get paid basically for nothing. And he does nothing about it. Now, I don't know about you and the taxes you pay, how happy you are to have the Minister of Finance disregard the fact that this payment has been flagged, but yet 3 senior managers in the GPAA want it paid. Look, all we can do on the Political Insider is raise this and try and give it a voice and try and get it out there. Try and get people to understand that these bodies cannot get away with stealing taxpayer money. We've got this thing called the Public Financial Management Act. It's a law. It's not like, please behave yourself. It's a law. These people are breaking the law. They shouldn't be suspended. They should be going to jail for breaking that PFMA. But here's a straightforward case of money getting paid for a job that is not being done and never going to be done. Now, I don't know about your business, how often you get paid for work that you're not going to do. But yeah, you've got the Minister of Finance, the guy who's meant to be the super controller of the public purse, doing nothing about it. And I think it's disgusting. So let's keep an eye on this one. It's got to come out. More has to happen. And boy, wouldn't we love to speak to the Minister of Finance so that he can explain to us why he's done nothing about this malfeasance in his ministry. That now makes the Minister of Finance, the Minister of Human Settlements, the Minister in the Presidency in charge of state security, the Minister of Tourism. We already have a suspended Minister of Police. There's going to be more people sitting at home suspended than there are going to be people in Parliament. Hey man, this is what life is like under the ANC. Thank you for watching The Political Insider. Subscribe to the channel. We'll see you again soon.